Napoleon Hill, the hidden law that creates millionaires. There exists a law unseen, unspoken, but felt by every man and woman who has ever risen from nothing to greatness. A law older than civilization, deeper than logic, more powerful than circumstance. The ancients whispered about it. The dreamers lived by it. The skeptics denied it. But it never ceased to operate. Napoleon Hill called it the hidden law that creates millionaires. This law doesn't exist in textbooks or governments. You won't find it in universities or financial systems. It hides inside you, buried under doubt, fear, and conformity. And those who awaken it bend reality itself to their will. Every monument of wealth and achievement, from the pyramids of Egypt to the skyline of New York, was first built in the mind of someone who understood this law. They were not born with special privilege or magic. They were born with a vision and the unshakable faith that what they saw in their imagination could be brought into existence. The hidden law begins with thought. Everything, every empire, every fortune, every revolution began as a single, invisible idea. Thought is the seed of destiny. But most people let their thoughts drift like leaves in the wind, carried by fear, gossip, and doubt. The great ones, the Edisons, the Carnegies, the Fords, they directed thought. They seized it. They disciplined it. They turned their inner world into a blueprint for the outer one. Hill said, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Those words have been repeated so often they've lost their weight. But when you stop and truly feel them, they are the most powerful truth you'll ever hear. Because if you can conceive a life of abundance, freedom, and greatness, and if you can believe in that vision with absolute certainty, no force on earth can keep it from becoming real. Belief is the engine that activates the law. It's not blind optimism. It's a knowing, a deep conviction that even if the world laughs, even if the storm comes, even if the night grows cold, you will not stop until your vision breathes. Every self-made millionaire was first a believer when no one else was. When Henry Ford dreamed of a motor for the masses, they called him insane. When Walt Disney pitched a mouse in a world of talking animals, they mocked him. When Edison failed 1,000 times, they said he'd gone mad. But each of them held to a vision so clearly, so intensely, that reality had no choice but to align. This is the first key of the hidden law. You must see what does not yet exist and hold it long enough for the world to see it too. But vision alone is not enough. The law requires fuel. It demands emotion, burning, consuming, relentless emotion. Hill called it a burning desire, not a wish, not a hope, a fire that refuses to die. A man who merely wants wealth will drift. A man who burns for it will find a way. When you combine thought, belief, and desire, you ignite the hidden mechanism of creation. It's as if the universe itself conspires to open doors, align chances, and guide you to people who carry the next piece of your plan. You will call it luck. Others will call it fate. But it is neither. It is law. Yet here is the truth few understand. The law does not work for the lazy. It bows only to discipline. The dreamers who sleep their days away, who speak of success but never act, they are exiled from its power. The hidden law responds to those who move, those who do not wait for the perfect time, but create it. Action, persistent, fearless, daily action is the bridge between vision and reality. When Carnegie built his empire, he woke before dawn every day with a single obsession: to serve a purpose larger than himself. He didn't wait for motivation. He commanded it. And that is where the modern world has lost its way. We chase pleasure instead of purpose. We scroll instead of build. We seek validation instead of vision. The law cannot be deceived by empty noise. It listens only to those who dare to decide. Decision is the master key. Most people never decide. They hesitate, they analyze, they wait for guarantees. But millionaires, real ones, creators, empire builders, they decide in faith. Hill wrote, "Indecision is the seed of fear. Decide, and the fog clears. Delay, and it thickens. When you decide, the universe rearranges itself in your favor. Invisible hands move, paths appear, and suddenly the impossible begins to look inevitable. But still, the path will test you. The law is not a shortcut. It is a crucible. It refines you through adversity. For wealth without wisdom is destruction. Every great builder must pass through the fire, the period where nothing seems to work, when doors close, when even friends disappear. That is the law asking, how badly do you want it? If you endure, if you persist through the nights when you are broke, alone, and questioning everything, you will rise into a higher league of power. You will have earned the right to command reality. And that is where the second layer of the hidden law begins to reveal itself. Every emotion, every thought, every belief is energy. You can't see it, but it's the most powerful currency you possess. The majority waste it. They pour it into worry, anger, gossip, and fear. But the few, the legendary few, they harness it. They take the raw, chaotic power of human emotion and channel it into creation. Napoleon Hill discovered this principle while studying hundreds of self-made millionaires. He saw the same pattern over and over again. Every one of them learned how to convert emotion into motion, desire into discipline, vision into reality. They were not always educated, nor were they always lucky, but they had mastered the direction of their energy. Understand this: energy follows focus. Where your attention goes, your life flows. If your mind is chained to limitation, your results will mirror it. If your heart is filled with resentment, you will repel opportunity. But if you discipline your focus, if you pour your energy into creation, gratitude, and belief, then the same invisible law begins to magnetize wealth, people, and chances to your vibration. You have felt this before. The day you decided with full conviction that something would happen, and it did. The moment you knew deep down that you would achieve something, and somehow you did. That was the hidden law in motion, not magic, not coincidence alignment. The universe is not random. It responds to the frequency of your dominant belief. You cannot fake it. You cannot pretend abundance while thinking scarcity. The law doesn't hear your words. It hears your vibration. That is why Hill emphasized the mastermind. He knew no man achieves greatness alone. When two or more minds come together with harmony and purpose, a third invisible force emerges, an intelligence greater than either of them. Edison had his team of inventors. Ford had his engineers. Carnegie had his partners. And together, They created more than any individual ever could. The mastermind principle is not just cooperation, it's energy amplification. When you align with others who believe as you do, your frequency multiplies. The hidden law becomes stronger. You attract faster. You create bigger. But here's the danger. Align with the wrong people, the doubters, the complainers, the dream killers, and the same law will work against you. Their fear will become yours. Their doubt will infect your vision. Protect your circle as you would your fortune. Because in truth, your circle is your fortune. Every person in your life is either feeding your belief or starving it. Choose carefully. The next layer of the hidden law is faith in motion. Not faith as religion, but faith as force. Faith is the unseen bridge between what is and what will be. It is the substance of creation. When Hill wrote about faith, he was not speaking about blind hope. He was talking about conscious trust, the kind of trust that persists even when all evidence says, give up. Faith is the builder of empires. It is what kept Lincoln standing through Civil War, what drove Thomas Edison through 10,000 failures, what carried Nelson Mandela through decades of imprisonment. Faith transforms pain into purpose. And make no mistake, pain will come. The hidden law does not shield you from hardship. It uses hardship to sculpt you. Every obstacle is not punishment, but preparation. The universe will test your worthiness for the vision you claim to desire. When your business fails, when your friends leave, when the world goes silent, that's not the law abandoning you. That's the law asking, are you ready to command me? The weak crumble, the strong evolve. You see, the hidden law cannot operate through fear. It responds only to certainty. Fear creates resistance, a vibration that repels success. Faith dissolves it. When you walk in faith, you move with an invisible confidence that magnetizes people, resources, and ideas to your path. That is why the great achievers never looked for guarantees. They were the guarantee. Walt Disney once said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Courage that is faith made visible. Courage is faith walking in daylight. Faith doesn't mean you never doubt. It means you don't stop when doubt appears. You move anyway. You keep building, keep calling, keep trying, keep knocking until the door opens. There is a sacred rhythm to this law. Think, believe, act, persist, receive. It is a divine sequence. Break the chain and the results vanish. Complete it and creation obeys you. But there is still another layer, deeper still, one that even those who study Hill often overlook. It is the law of vibration and gratitude. Every thought you hold has a frequency. Gratitude is the highest frequency of all. When you live in gratitude, even in scarcity, even in pain, you signal to the universe that you already possess abundance. And what you truly feel you already have multiplies. Gratitude opens the floodgates of the law. That is why millionaires, true creators, live with an inner calm. They are not desperate for success. They are thankful for it, even before it arrives. They see wealth not as a chase, but as a reflection of their inner state. To be grateful before you receive is to show mastery. To thank the unseen is to command the seen. Every morning you rise with gratitude, you are declaring faith. Every night You sleep with gratitude. You are reprogramming the mind for abundance. And yet, the greatest gratitude is not for money. It's for becoming the kind of person capable of creating it. Because wealth is not the goal. It is the echo of who you become. That is why Napoleon Hill said, "More gold has been mined from the minds of men than has ever been taken from the earth." The hidden law creates millionaires, not because it gives them money, but because it transforms them into the type of person who can attract, hold, and multiply it. It is character before currency, mind before money, spirit before status. And so, as the hidden law continues to unfold, there remains one final mystery, one final truth that binds all others together. The final truth of the hidden law is this: you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. Every thought, every emotion, every belief is not just energy, it's identity. You can say you want wealth, but if deep inside you still think like the poor, act like the fearful, and expect failure, then the law must deliver exactly that, not as punishment, but as precision. This universe is exact. It reflects your vibration with mathematical accuracy. And until you transform who you are within, nothing outside you can permanently change. That is the secret Napoleon Hill discovered after decades of study. The millionaires he interviewed weren't just thinkers, they were transformed beings. They had burned away the limitations of who they were to become who they needed to be. Andrew Carnegie did not earn wealth, he evolved into a man wealth could not resist. Henry Ford did not chase success, he became the embodiment of relentless innovation. Thomas Edison didn't just invent the light bulb, he became light itself in human form, refusing to surrender to darkness. The hidden law begins as philosophy, but it ends as identity. It demands that you stop trying to get success and start being the person who commands it. Ask yourself, do you think abundance or do you think lack? Do you speak power or do you speak doubt? Do you wake up with purpose or do you wait for permission? Because your answers define your frequency and your frequency defines your fortune. You cannot lie to the law. You cannot trick it with affirmations you do not believe or habits you do not keep. You must embody it. You must live as if your dream were already true, until it becomes impossible for reality not to follow. That is why the law begins with imagination, but it ends with integration. Hill wrote, "You have absolute control over but one thing, your thoughts. Yet most surrender even that. They let the world dictate their thinking, their emotion, their vision. They read the headlines, scroll the screens, absorb the fear of others, and call it realism. But realism has never created greatness. Vision has. Every empire began as a delusion in the mind of a visionary. Every innovation was once mocked as madness. Every revolution began as an impossible idea. You cannot lead a movement if you are imprisoned by mediocrity. So, what does it take to unlock this hidden law? To not just understand it, but to live it? It takes sacrifice. Not sacrifice of your happiness, but of your excuses. Not sacrifice of your peace, but of your comfort. The world worships comfort. The truly successful worship growth. And growth only lives beyond the edge of comfort. When you wake before dawn, when you refuse to give up, when you discipline yourself to think abundance while others think lack, That's when the hidden law begins to bend toward you, because the law does not reward need. It rewards alignment. And alignment means living every day in harmony with your vision, your thoughts, emotions, and actions, all pointing toward the same North Star. That is why clarity is power. You cannot attract what you cannot define. A vague goal produces vague results. The universe doesn't answer uncertainty. It answers command. When you declare with conviction, "This is who I am. This is what I will become. This is what I will build," you carve a path through chaos. The winds may rise, but the direction is fixed. Every obstacle then becomes part of your training. Every delay becomes a test of faith. Every defeat becomes a lesson in mastery. The great ones don't curse the struggle, they study it. They know the hidden law hides opportunity inside adversity. It's the law's way of asking, are you ready to hold the blessing you're asking for? The poor man prays for riches. The wise man prays for strength. And it is the strength that brings the riches. So the question becomes, are you willing to become the kind of person who can hold success without being destroyed by it? Because the law will not give you more than your character can sustain. You must expand your spirit before you expand your wallet. You must develop discipline before you receive dominion. That is the quiet reason why most people never rise, not because they can't, but because they refuse to grow into their vision. They want results without resilience, comfort without courage, recognition without responsibility. But the hidden law will not yield to those who half believe. It bows only to total alignment, mind, body, and soul directed toward one definite purpose. And purpose is the compass of the wealthy. Purpose makes work sacred. It turns effort into expression. It gives meaning to struggle. Without purpose, even success feels hollow. But with it, every challenge becomes part of your legend. When your purpose is greater than your pain, nothing can stop you. Purpose is what kept Edison in his lab while others slept. It's what drove Carnegie to build an empire that employed millions. It's what lifted Hill himself from poverty into the legacy of a man whose words still awaken sleeping giants a century later. Purpose transforms money into meaning, labor into legacy. And here lies the final revelation. The hidden law that creates millionaires is not about money at all. It's about mastery. Money is merely a symbol, a mirror reflecting your degree of personal growth. The real wealth is who you become. The law rewards evolution, not greed. When you discipline your thoughts, when you live in gratitude, when you align your actions with faith, when you serve with purpose, the law opens every door. People call it luck. They call it timing. But you will know it for what it is, the divine echo of your own becoming. The law doesn't choose the worthy, it makes them. So stand tall. Look into the mirror, not as who you are, but as who you are becoming. Speak to that reflection as a command to destiny. Tell it, I am no longer waiting for the world to believe in me. I believe in myself. I am no longer chasing wealth. I am creating it. I am no longer asking for permission. I am giving direction. I am the master of my thoughts, the architect of my life, and the embodiment of abundance itself. Because in that moment, when belief becomes identity and vision becomes reality, you will have unlocked the hidden law, Napoleon Hill spent his life trying to reveal, and then, quietly, without fanfare or noise, you will realize the truth that every millionaire eventually learns. You were never chasing money. You were remembering power. There comes a moment, quiet, almost sacred, when everything you've struggled for finally reveals its purpose. When the nights of doubt, the years of toil, the seasons of silence all converge into a single realization. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. That is the moment when the hidden law becomes visible. When you no longer chase opportunity, opportunity chases you. When you no longer pray for miracles, you become one. When you stop fighting the current and realize the current was always carrying you toward your destiny. Napoleon Hill called it the turning point. The invisible threshold every great achiever crosses. The moment when belief turns into knowing, when action turns into flow, and when struggle turns into strength. It is not luck, it is law, because everything that once resisted you was designed to refine you. Every setback was a signal. Every rejection was a redirection. Every delay was divine timing. The hidden law does not operate on your schedule. It operates on your readiness. And readiness is not measured by how much you want something, but by how much you've become. The man who builds wealth without inner foundation loses it. But the man who builds character first will attract it again and again, no matter how many times he falls. That is why the true millionaires of the mind can never be broken, because their riches are not stored in banks, but in being. Their empires live first in consciousness. Their fortune is faith. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing at the edge of your greatest dream, the one that has lived in you for years, silently calling your name. Feel the weight of it. Feel the fear, the doubt, the uncertainty. Now feel something deeper, that quiet whisper that says, "This is yours." That whisper is the hidden law speaking. It does not shout. It never begs. It simply knows. And when you finally trust it fully, fearlessly, without hesitation, the world rearranges itself to honor your decision. That is how the Carnegies built steel empires, how Edison lit up the planet, how Ford transformed transportation, how Disney turned imagination into industry. They didn't just work harder, they aligned deeper. Every single one of them understood this eternal truth. Your outer world will always rise to match your inner command. If your thoughts are small, your results will shrink to fit them. If your vision is blurred, your life will mirror the confusion. But when your thoughts are vast, when your belief is anchored, when your heart burns with gratitude, the law bends to your will. So command wisely. That is not arrogance. It is alignment, because the law was never outside of you. It was you all along. You are the thinker, the believer, the creator, the vessel through which the infinite expresses itself in form. You don't need to chase the world you need, only command it from within. That's why Hill said, "Success comes to those who become success conscious, not money conscious, not comfort conscious, success conscious." It's a state of mind, a frequency of thought. When you tune to that frequency, everything begins to move. People appear, ideas arrive, resources unfold. And yet, those who remain trapped in fear will call you lucky. They won't understand that the law you live by is invisible to the eyes that refuse to see. But you will know, you will walk with quiet confidence. You will move with purpose. You will speak with power. Because you are no longer playing the game of chance. You are operating by law, and the law is faithful. The question now is not whether it works. It always works. The question is, are you working with it or against it? Every moment you doubt, complain, or procrastinate, you resist it. Every time you think abundance, act with faith and move with purpose. You align with it, and when you are in alignment, you become unstoppable. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become unbreakable. The storms may still come, but they will only water your garden. The critics may still speak, but they will only amplify your conviction. The failures may still appear, but they will only sharpen your strategy. When you live by this law, you realize that success is not an event. It's an identity. And from that identity, you create, not once, but endlessly. Not for ego, but for evolution. Because the hidden law was never about the accumulation of wealth. It was about the realization of power. Every mountain you climb, every dream you manifest, every life you impact, all of it is the universe expressing itself through you. You are not a seeker of abundance. You are the source of it. When you understand this, the game of life changes. You no longer ask, will I make it? You begin to declare, I already am. And that declaration sends ripples through reality. It pulls opportunities toward you that others call impossible. It unlocks ideas that seem divine. It opens doors that were never meant to open for the average, because you are no longer average. You have remembered who you are, a thinker, a believer, a creator. That is the hidden law Napoleon Hill discovered. That is the code behind every empire, every fortune, every legacy ever built by human hands. The law is not in books or banks or boardrooms. It lives in your spirit. It whispers through your thoughts. It breathes through your belief. And when you finally awaken to it, you stop asking the world for permission and start giving it direction. So rise. Rise as the author of your fate. Rise as the architect of your vision. Rise as the master of your mind. Because the world does not need another follower. It needs a thinker. It needs a dreamer. It needs someone who remembers that success was never outside. It was always within. You were born to be wealthy, not just in money, but in mind, in purpose, in soul. And the moment you choose to believe that, the hidden law will move mountains to make it true. Because it always has, and it always will.